What would you choose if love and wealth stood on opposite sides of the road? Sometimes, the glitter of gold hides the darkest secrets. This is the story of a young African girl, Ada, who had to learn the hard way that not everything that glitters is gold. Ada stood under the shade of the old baobab tree, arms crossed tightly against her chest, her face set like stone. Chike knelt before her, his voice trembling with desperation. Ada, please don't do this. Think of everything we've been through together. You told me I was your sunrise, your rock. Have you forgotten so quickly? She looked away, her expression hardening further. Chike, love is sweet, but when there's no money, it's bitter, she said coldly. I can't keep struggling with you. David has everything I've ever dreamed of. Cars, houses, a future. Chike's face crumpled in disbelief. A future built on what, Ada? Can't you see he's hiding something? We've worked so hard, planned our dreams together. I may not be rich, but I'm building something real. Ada let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. Your dreams won't feed me, Chike. Let me live my life. You'll find someone who matches your simplicity. Her words cut like a blade, leaving Chike silent as she turned and walked away. As her figure disappeared into the distance, Chike wiped a tear from his cheek and whispered, "May you find what you're looking for, Ada." Life with David was everything Ada had thought she wanted. Lavish parties filled with laughter, designer clothes that made her feel like royalty, and the endless admiration of her friends. Yet, a gnawing unease clung to her. David was a mystery, distant and cold, his gaze always calculating, like a predator stalking its prey. "David, where do you go all the time?" she asked one evening as he adjusted his gold cufflinks before heading out yet again. "Business," he replied curtly, barely sparing her a glance. "Big men like me don't answer petty questions." Her stomach churned at his tone, but she pushed her doubts aside. After all, she had chosen this life, hadn't she? But as the days turned to weeks, her unease deepened. David often returned home late at night, his clothes smeared with stains that looked disturbingly like blood. She dared not ask him about them, remembering his temper. One fateful night, Ada was jolted awake by the sound of David's low, menacing voice on the phone. Pressing her ear to the slightly ajar door, she heard him say, "Yes, the shipment is ready. Make sure the sacrifice is prepared. No mistakes this time." Her heart raced. Sacrifice? What did he mean? Her mind spun with questions, but before she could process them, David slammed the door shut behind him, silencing her thoughts. The following days brought more troubling signs. Women from David's lavish parties began disappearing without a trace. When she tried to confront him, his fury was terrifying. "Don't meddle in my affairs, woman," he shouted. "You're here to enjoy, not investigate." The words echoed in her mind, but her resolve to uncover the truth only grew stronger. On a moonless night, Ada followed David as he slipped out of the house. Her heart pounded with each step as she trailed him to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Hiding behind an old truck, she peeked through a broken window and froze. Inside, she saw human remains arranged in a ritualistic cycle, lit by flickering candles. Men chanted strange words, their faces obscured by masks. Ada's scream escaped before she could stop herself, and the sound echoed through the night. David's men turned toward her hiding spot. "Find her," David barked. She tried to run, but they caught her within moments. Eda's heart pounded in her chest like a drum, her breath shallow and panicked as David's men dragged her into the dimly lit room. The scent of iron and decay filled the air, making her stomach churn. She thrashed and kicked, tears streaming down her face, but her captors were unyielding. They tied her hands and feet, their rough movements bruising her delicate skin. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "David, don't do this. I'm sorry." David stepped into the room, his cold eyes gleaming with no trace of the love she once believed he had for her. "Sorry," he scoffed, leaning down to her level. "I told you not to meddle in my affairs, but you wouldn't listen. Now, you've left me no choice." The room spun as Eda's head swam with disbelief. The man she had chosen over Chike, the man she had thought would give her the life of her dreams, was now her executioner. "David, I loved you," she cried, her voice breaking. "I gave up everything for you." David smirked. "Love," he spat the word like venom. "Love is for fools. I gave you everything you wanted. Money, luxury, status. And now, you've outlived your usefulness." Eda's sobs grew louder, her cries echoing in the dark room. "Please, I don't want to die. I'm begging you." Her captors stood like statues, emotionless and indifferent to her pleas. The more she begged, the more futile it felt, her voice drowned by the silence of her captors and the finality in David's gaze. In those agonizing moments, regret consumed her. Flashes of her past life with Chike flooded her mind, the laughter, the simple joys, the dreams they had built together. She saw his warm smile, heard his voice calling her name. And she remembered the love she had so carelessly thrown away. "Chike," she whispered, her tears pooling beneath her. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." One of the men stepped forward, carrying a blade that glinted in the dim light. Eda's breath hitched as she realized there would be no escape. "David," she whimpered one last time, her voice barely audible. "You'll regret this. You'll pay for this." David laughed, a hollow, chilling sound. "Regret? I never regret what needs to be done." As the blade descended, Ada squeezed her eyes shut, her body trembling with fear. She felt the cold steel graze her skin, and in that instant, her world began to fade. The pain was sharp and searing at first, but soon it dulled, replaced by an overwhelming numbness. Her mind drifted to Chike once more, and she saw him standing beneath the baobab tree, smiling at her with love in his eyes. For a fleeting moment, she felt peace. Then, everything turned black. Days later, news of Eda's disappearance spread through the village. Rumors swirled. Some said David had used her for rituals, while others speculated she had run away. Chike heard the news while working in his fields. Dropping his tools, he fell to his knees, whispering a silent prayer. "God, help her find peace." David's empire soon crumbled. Betrayed by an associate, he was arrested, and his dark dealings were exposed. But for Ada, it was too late. As the village mourned Ada, her story became a cautionary tale. The elders spoke of her often, warning young women about the dangers of trading love for material wealth. Chike, though heartbroken, dedicated himself to the community. His kindness and resilience inspired others, and he became a symbol of hope. Life is like a tree. The roots may be buried, unseen, but they are the source of life. Never tread solid roots for shiny leaves. They fall too easily in the storm. Would you make the same mistake as Ada? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking stories.